Let's head to the phones, and we are pleased and proud to welcome to the program Governor Bruce Rauner. Governor, good morning to you.
Good morning, Riley. Good morning, Scott. How are you on this great day?
We're doing very well, Governor. Boy, you're leading an interesting life recently.
Well, we've got a lot going on here in Springfield. You know, we're battling hard. We've got these lobbyists and special interest groups that are controlling Springfield, and Speaker Madigan and John Cullerton doing their bit, and really just not working for the people. They're working for the insiders in government. They passed yet another phony, unbalanced, unconstitutional budget, which is just shocking to me. And they're trying to force a tax hike on the people of Illinois, and we're battling back hard. We're gonna fight them so we actually don't force taxes. What we do is reform the government so we can shrink the wasteful spending and get a control on our property taxes and grow our economy. That's going to be the number one priority.
Governor, it seems to me that there's a couple of guys down there who may have underestimated you, that you're not the guy that was sitting in there last time, and it doesn't look like you're going to blink nearly as quickly as they'd like you to.
That's for sure. You know, I'm not a career politician like everybody else. I'm a volunteer. I'm not taking a salary or a pension. I'm just doing this because I love Illinois. I've been a business builder my whole life. I know what it takes to grow our economy. I know what it takes to build high-quality jobs here. And I know operations. I know how to get efficiency and effectiveness and accountability in an organization. And let me be clear with your listeners. Taxpayers in Illinois are not getting value for their money in this state. It's outrageous how badly run things are. And, you know, Speaker Madigan and President Cullerton, they've been saying for the last week, oh, they're fighting for the middle class. That's a bunch of baloney. Boy, you look at the middle class in Illinois, truck drivers are hurting, factory workers are hurting, carpenters are hurting. Who's doing well in Illinois? The politicians that Madigan controls, and there's a lot of them in the legislature, lobbyists that Madigan controls, and many of them used to work for Madigan down here, and the insiders in government, the government union bosses, they are doing really well. So Madigan is really protecting the political class. He's not helping the middle class, and that's what we're going to change.
Governor Bruce Rauner with us, Rauner and Scot on WROK. You know, Governor, there's a lot of people who voted for you who are counting on you to stand firm. So many times people have been rolled down in Springfield by Speaker Madigan and others. So let's get it out there. I know the turnaround agenda that you put forward, it's already been slimmed down a bit in terms of what you are asking for to get this budget deal done. So what are you standing on? What are the key planks that you will not back down from in terms of getting part of that turnaround agenda complete before any kind of revenue is considered?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Let's focus on that for a minute. To turn Illinois around and really change our direction, we need to do many things. We've got to grow our economy, and we've got to get value for taxpayers. And we've got to put the money where it deserves to be with our schools and our students. So we've got a very broad agenda. It's got several dozen points in it. But in a spirit of compromise with the legislature, I've been willing to take many things off the table for the time being. I will never give up on any of them. But I've got 4 years to get a lot done in the spirit of compromise to try to get a budget passed that's truly balanced and truly constitutional. I've taken many things off the table, and I've just focused on a handful of things, just a few things that we should get done right now here in this session. First is term limits on the politicians in Springfield, so we get people who are public servants rather than career people who are looking to make money from government and have 8 years or 10 years in office and then leave, and that'll include myself and the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor, as well as the legislature. So term limits, one. Number two is redistricting reform so we can have fair maps, so we can have competitive general elections, and voters will have a real choice in elections rather than just having incumbents locked in office. Number three is get a handle on property taxes. Property taxes are our number one tax problem in Illinois. They're punishing our homeowners and our small business owners and pushing employers out of the state. And what we've said is, look, let's stop the mandates coming from Springfield that force local governments and local schools to spend money that they don't have. Let's get power into the hands of local voters. Let's freeze property taxes for a short period and then allow property taxes only to go up if the voters approve it. And let's let local voters control the costs inside government so we can get true competitive bidding when taxpayers build projects in schools and roads. And let's get collective bargaining fair and balanced so taxpayers have a voice in what gets bargained and negotiated. That way we can bring down the tax burden over time. And then the final change we want is some regulatory relief on businesses, especially small business owners, on workers' comp and tort reform, so we could be more competitive with other states and we stop driving employers out. Caterpillar, which is one of the best employers in America and in the state of Illinois, told me workers' comp costs 5 times as much in Illinois as the other states that they make their tractors and their earth-moving equipment in. And we've got to bring that cost down so that we can grow. Caterpillar hasn't been growing their jobs in Illinois. They've been growing them in other states because they're not competitive here in Illinois.
You know, Governor, Scott had mentioned earlier, a lot of people who voted for you, counting on you to do the things that you had mentioned, the things that you just mentioned right now. Although, and I've heard this mentioned from people before, to the other side of the aisle, it's like the election never took place.
Well, they're not used to someone who's strong and going to fight for what's right. They're used to career politicians who are really just looking for popularity. I know that these issues are not going to come easily, but I didn't get sent to Springfield here to do what's easy. We're going to do what's right. And the one case I'll cite way back in 1991 when Governor Jim Edgar first got into office, he wanted to change a few things. He was pushing for a property tax cap in Illinois, so slow down the rate of rise in property taxes. Madigan fought him hard. Madigan never likes to limit property taxes because he has his own personal interest in that activity.
Right.
And Jim Edgar pushed hard, and they didn't. Madigan didn't speak to Governor Edgar for 4 months during that first term, and they didn't get a budget until the third week of July. Now I'm ahead of that pace so far. Madigan and I are talking every few days, and we're only June 4th, I guess. We're going to battle through, and the key thing everybody's got to understand is this is not about Democrats versus Republicans. That's not what this is about. Many Democrats around the state support reforms, support most or all of our turnaround agenda, and many of the legislators who are Democrats support it, but they're scared because Speaker Madigan controls a lot of insider money. He's ruled Springfield for decades with an iron fist. They're scared to go against him. So we're trying to encourage them, stand strong, represent the people again. Don't just do what Madigan and his special interest groups tell you to do. That's the real battle going on here.
Governor Bruce Rauner with us. It's Rauner and Scot on WROK. On the workers' comp issue, Governor, I guess Mike Madigan has filed a bill, and it might be work on it today on what he calls workers' comp reform. But as far as I can tell from the reading of the bill, it's really just limiting premiums that insurance companies can charge, but that does not get anywhere close to the root of the problem, does it?
No, not even a little bit. This is another kind of phony bill that does insignificant things. They've done this before. He tried to throw up some sham bills 2-3 weeks ago and vote them down. This one, I think he's going to try to tell his people to vote yes on. But it's a little bit like they've done on other things. This is a way to try to say, oh, we tried to compromise. We did things. This bill, our people have studied it, and the business community has studied it. Employers have looked and said, this won't do anything to solve the problem. What we have in Illinois is the trial lawyers who fund Madigan. The trial lawyers make millions of dollars in our workers' comp system by having fraudulent claims and claims that have to be disputed in court so they can charge high legal fees. We need to get at causation, so injuries are really caused from the job, not from unrelated work. Injuries are unrelated to work. That's what's got to change. The trial lawyers hate that because then we have an honest system that would really work and protect both the employees and the employers. And Madigan's not going anywhere near that because he wants to stay allied with his trial lawyer buddies.
Governor, quickly back to what you are requesting in exchange for potential revenue increases in Springfield. You mentioned the term limits, which was a very important plank of your campaign to be governor. So just to be clear again, are you saying that without movement toward getting a term limit issue on the ballot here in Illinois from legislators, that you will not agree to revenue increases for Springfield?
Well, here's the issue. We will always negotiate in good faith to compromise and be creative and flexible. And again, this is not about Democrats versus Republicans. It's about good government. We've taken many things off the table. We're willing to negotiate in good faith. So far, Madigan and Colleton and the politicians here in the legislature that they control have shown no interest, zero interest in any true reform and any true compromise. And as long as that's the case, we're going to hang tough. Term limits are supported by more than 80% of all voters in both parties. Redistricting reform is supported by 80% both parties. Property tax relief and reform is supported by more than 80% of all voters. These are good government reforms that people want, and Madigan and Cullerton are blocking them. As long as they block them, we're not going to talk about tax reform or anything else.
Governor, one of the things we've heard people talking about is pushback on your part not to put up with this sort of thing that would be backed up by some sort of campaign, taking to the bully pulpit, taking to the airwaves with some advertising, pointing out what's going on here, and hammering it home. Is that going to happen? And if so, when are you going to get started on that?
Well, you know what? It is important that we get the message out about what's really going on. You know, Madigan and Cullerton have been in charge of state government in Illinois for decades. They've controlled the messages. They've spun things. They've raised tens of millions of dollars that they've funded the legislature with and funded ads with. They and their allies have already sent out mailers, advertising mailers, against legislators who've taken reform votes this spring. So they're playing the game rough and tumble. In terms of what we'll do, I can tell you this: we are going to fight hard. We are not going to back down. We're going to get our message out, and that's one of the reasons that I appreciate coming on your program this morning, and I'll look forward to coming back again soon. Is to visit with you and get the facts out, so your listeners and the people of all around the state can understand what's truly going on.
Governor Bruce Rauner with us just another minute. I wanted to ask this because people will begin to ask this question, and I know you're hopeful that there will be an agreement before the end of the month. But if we get to July 1st, the start of the new fiscal year here in Illinois, and there is no budget agreement in Springfield, how is money spent? What is the your authority to spend money without a budget in place?
Well, what we are doing is making contingency plans for all the possible eventualities. We don't know what's going to happen. We hope we're sincere in our negotiations to try to get a balanced budget that's constitutional and fair. But at this point, they've passed a unbalanced, unconstitutional budget. We cannot support that. So what we're doing is, in fact, I met with all my cabinet, more than 50 directors yesterday, to talk about contingency plans. We've got to get ready to run the government just with the resources at hand and make sure that the priorities are functioned, that our most vulnerable families are protected, that the critical essential services of government continue to operate, and that we cut back on anything that's non-essential that is consuming money right now, because we've got to get ready for any possibility. We're going to stay hopeful and negotiate in good faith to restructure and reform the government, but we're going to be ready for any possibility in terms of no agreement and restrictions. We've got to be ready to run the government effectively without a real true budget in hand.
Governor Rauner, we know what a busy, crazy time it is. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day for us.
Well, thanks you so much. Scott and Riley, you guys are terrific. Appreciate being with you. Bless you. Have a great day. We'll talking with you again soon.